Hola from the west side. It is me, DC the Purple Diva, and welcome to Not So Random Chat. Happy Tuesday, y'all. And as we continue with this curfew for many of us in many parts of the country, I want to focus on some other things that are dealing with the same thing tonight. Hey, 1SP. I want to talk about being Black and autistic during this time of dealing with police and law enforcement. So I want to read a little something to you guys, and I got this off of Facebook. And this is the statistics with police and murder and Blacks with autism. Yeah, there's positive things, but I want to bring this to people's attention, and then I'm also going to post on my community tab, thechange.org, that I would like people to go take a look at in regards to people on the spectrum. So 1 in 5 teens with autism will be stopped and questioned by police by the age of 21. And actually, autistic adults are 5 times more likely to be jailed than their neurotypical peers. Black men and boys are almost 3 times more likely than white men and boys to be killed by police. Black girls, hey calf life, Black girls and women are almost 2 times more likely than white women and girls to be killed by police. Consequently, if you if you are Black and autistic, or if you have a Black and autistic child, you have to prepare them for interaction with law enforcement within their social skills repertoire. And I just want to go over some tips, okay? And I'm going to just go over these things so that this will be in this live stream. Hey, Matt. Okay, so these are tips for dealing with people on the autism spectrum and dealing with the police. I may actually even do a video about this, but we're gonna do it in this live stream because I want to do it right now. Plan and practice disclosure and safety techniques to include and not limited to the following. When to anticipate law enforcement interaction, develop and practice individual-specific vocal disclosure plans, teach them to always keep their hands visible and to drop any objects in their hands. And this is a serious thing, you guys. For those of you who don't know, my son has had interactions with the police because, hey, he called them and they came to my house. And he is an adult. He's not a child. And so I couldn't explain to them. They had to actually see him and actually talk to him. And getting him prepared is some of the things that I'm always doing. Like, we're fighting with him about not wearing certain things so that he doesn't call himself to attention. Because, my son's a tall dude. Okay, back to the tips. Practice when and how to obtain permission or signal your intentions before reaching in their pockets, bags, or glove compartments of vehicles, because you do realize that there are some people who have autism who do drive. Yeah, my son isn't one of them, but there are some who are able to actually drive. Get a driver's license, graduate from high school, go to college. Let's see, what else? Practice when and how to direct police on where their ID and or handout card is located. So, like my son, I'm always making sure he has his ID with him. Hey, Raining Woman. I'm always making sure he has his ID with him. And I wish they had something that you could actually put on the actual ID that identified that he had a disability. But, they do have the Medic ID bracelets. I've got to get him a bigger one because, he outgrew the one. His wrists are thicker than that. Because, looking at their ID doesn't tell you they have autism. You still just see a Black person if you're law enforcement. Develop and practice self-calming and coping strategies. And you guys know, hey, problem child, you guys know that's part of the things that I've been doing with my son, especially to help him to not have meltdowns, because, the last thing I want is for him to have a meltdown with law enforcement. And we already know that they're not properly trained to deal with people with autism. They're not. We have autistic individuals who are dead because of this. So, moving on to the next one. If they don't understand their Miranda rights, practice responding, no, I don't understand. This is a very important one, y'all. Especially when you are dealing with someone who has autism who may not be fully verbal, or what they consider high functioning or Asperger-like, which is where my son would fall. He's not on that part. So, yeah, that's one of the things that we have to deal with him on, is if he's ever stopped by the police and they start talking to him, if he doesn't understand what they're saying, to say, no, I don't understand. And pray to God that they do ask him, does he understand? Because, sometimes when they're giving the Miranda rights, they don't go through them all. Just the key. Prepare them that they may be touched and equip them for coping with strategies. Because let's just talk about this. Most people on the autism spectrum, well, no, I won't say most, a lot of them, they don't like being touched. Heck, we don't like being touched. And we are not autistic. But it's a problem, however, they don't have a problem getting your personal space, but they have a problem if you come into their personal space uninvited, and sometimes can become violent if you touch them when they don't want to be touched. So this is another area where we have to work with our, young people who are autistic and happen to also be Black. Let's see, what's the next one? Teach them not to run. Hey, Joy. Great, Joy. And you can always listen back to this, and I'll try to put some of this. I think I'm probably going to do a video with this information, just running through these points, because I think that they're very important. I've got a couple of videos that I got to do, but I think that's going to be one of them, going through these points in more detail. Yeah, we have to teach our kids not to run. Many children on the autism spectrum are runners. I thank God that my son never was one. but many of them are. And although my son is not a runner, he can walk away if he wants to, which is another reason why he has to have 24-hour supervision, because he's not, prepared to be out there by himself at all times. Next one. Teach them not to touch police officers' dogs. Many on the spectrum are very friendly, and they do like dogs. My son likes dogs as long as they're not little dogs. He likes big dogs, like police officer dogs. And, sometimes in nervousness, they may, touch the dog, because many of them may have, dealt with dogs for helping them to calm down. But we have to teach them that they can't touch that dog, because that's not their dog. And that's not a dog that they can touch. That dog is there to attack them if there's a dog there. Teach them to not touch police officers' weapons or persons. Many times when a person on the spectrum is having a meltdown and they become aggressive, they lash out at other people. So we have to, on top of everything else, teach them not to touch officers. So, this is all about preparing Black autistic children to interact with law enforcement, and it's a real thing. You don't see a lot about it, but in many situations, it's not happy interaction, because, as I said before, law enforcement they don't know how to deal with people on the spectrum, period. They lump autism under mental, and it's not a mental health issue. It's not. But I can say in my own community, that's what they lump it under. And from talking to people in other communities, that's what they lump it under, if they even have any training on it at all. I know of one community here in Southern California where they kind of made it an autism-friendly community, like I believe down in the city of Irvine. But this is one of the fears for parents, who have a kid who is autistic, and they also happen to be Black. It's scary for us. Let me see what you're saying. Yeah, exactly. We have to train our kids to deal with them. I mean, but that's the same thing. It's just more I have to do with him than another, Black parent has to do with their kids. We have to have additional talks with our kids because there's additional things going on with them. And you can't look at someone with autism and tell that they have autism. You don't know it until you try to interact with them. I agree with you on that one, SP. I'm in total agreement with that. That's one of the reasons why we have this petition going on change.org for Spectrum Protection 2020. And I will post the link on my community tab after midnight, because it's still Blackout Tuesday on the West Coast, and I'm not doing any social media posts until after midnight. But I will post it on my community tab. I will also post it in the chat. Let me just copy it. All right, I'll post it in the chat so you guys have the link to that actual change.org. That's the change.org petition that's out there, because yeah, it's real. And my son will be 25 this year. You know, and if you just look at him, you don't know he has autism. And he doesn't even look like he's going to be 25. He looks like a teen. He looks like a kid. You know, but his verbal skills are not to the level that he could really have a conversation with police officers if he was stopped and I was not there with him. It's real for me from that perspective. One of the reasons why we're not down at any of the protests, you know, because I'd probably get killed protecting my son. So, but it's real when you have autism. And I mean, if you guys, you know, I'm probably gonna give more details when I do the video, but the likelihood of someone on the spectrum getting picked up is, you know, it's 5 times higher than someone who's not on the spectrum, black or white. You know, doesn't matter. And you know, so just imagine he's black and he has autism. He has a 5% 5 times higher rate that of potentially being pulled over, stopped, you know. And a lot of people on the spectrum, part of their coping is like putting on shades, putting hoods on, you know, covering their eyes so they can't see, putting things on their ears so they can't hear the outside world. This kind of stuff looks strange, and to an officer who doesn't know about this kind of stuff, they might, you know, think something else is going on, you know, and not realize. I know that's the thing, Matt. That's the thing. You know, those cases, you don't hear about them as much, but it's happening. And it's just an added layer. You know, be they a autistic male or female, it's an added layer. And it's a little scarier if they are higher functioning, because then they don't realize that something is going on with them. And may take it that, you know, they understand what's going on, and just because they are fully verbal doesn't necessarily mean that they really understand things the same way. Because of the autism, they don't necessarily understand things the same way. And they don't have the same social skills, you know, per se sometimes. You know, because my son does like to get up close on people. That could be a problem with law enforcement. You know what I mean? It could be a problem. Being real. And I think about these things. You know, especially when we're in the middle of all of this. I mean, you know, yeah, we have the curfews right now and everything, and I'm here right now. You know, but what about the kids that don't have that are on the autism spectrum, who are Black young men and women who are on the autism spectrum, that don't have their parents' support. They may have been in foster care, grew up in foster care, and now they're out, and they're not necessarily, in the best situation, because sometimes when the state is taking care of things, they don't take care of things the right way. And if they're out there on their own and don't have the right people around to protect and help them to protect themselves, I know. And then, crazy 45 is trying to be able to bring the Marines in. And let me tell you, if he brings in the military, what's going to happen. Marines are trained to shoot to kill. They're not trained to calm the situation. That's not how they're trained. They're trained to attack. Unless some children get shot or harmed. It's going to be a whole nother situation. No, I don't think the states want the money. The states do not want military force to come in. They want to have that autonomy. They know that that's going to disrupt that's going to take everything to the next level. They're not trying to have that. But that's what 45 apparently wants. That's what he wants. But he does not have that power. There is no precedent for a president doing what he thinks he can do. He can't do it legally. Let me just say that. Legally, he can't do it. But when has that stopped this man? When has that stopped this man? And he's talking about that the people out there who are doing all this looting, are stealing, from the American people. No, that's not who's stealing from the American people. Let's talk about how all the stimulus money went to Fortune 500 companies, and the rest of Americans got left with a $1,200 check. And now this is giving him an excuse to not give them any more money. Yet and still, I don't see the unemployment rate going down. I don't see everybody getting back to work. Maybe that's why there were so many people available to be out there. You think? Because many of these, peaceful protests that happened today, I mean, they were in the middle of the day. For those of us who are working, we're not out there, but we all know that there's a very high unemployment rate right now in this country. Nobody wants to talk about that. Man doesn't want to talk about the fact that, you've got a lot of Americans who are either unemployed or underemployed right now, where the, household income has been significantly reduced because maybe one person is carrying the house, maybe nobody's carrying the house, and they're living off of unemployment right now. That's what's going to happen in 1SP. I'm trying to tell you, because let me just say this. I can assure you that places like Utah, That's not us. There's some young white lady who decided that she was going to defecate on the windshield of a police car today. It's all over social media. Y'all can just Google it. You know. Yeah. There's many of them, because let's think about this. At this particular point, although this is a Black Lives Matter protest supposedly at the core, and I say supposedly because, you know, you've got other factions doing other stuff. This has gone international. This has gone global. So in it going global, even here in the United States, it can't just be us. It cannot just be Black people out there doing the silent protest, because as we all know, we do not make up that much of the population in the United States. I believe 13% of the quote unquote population in the United States. Maybe we're up to 20. I don't know. You know, but there's, you know, not that many of us. You know, and we've pretty much been enslaved and been in the plantation mentality in the mind after we've been enslaved. Well, we're what on 401 years now? Yeah. So, and that's just here in this country. But the travesties that have befallen upon us is affecting the rest of the world, because, you know, people are not discriminate when they look at darker skin. And law enforcement seems to have a problem around the world. No matter what color they are, they seem to take out, you know, you seem to have some people who take out their aggressions. And we all know that it's probably going to come out that this particular police officer had some type of personal vendetta against George Floyd. Because it seems really odd that they both worked at a nightclub as security. And I would find it really interesting if this man denies knowing George Floyd prior to that. Now, George is not here to speak as to whether he knew him before that, so we don't even know from George's standpoint. But I think that the officer at least knew him. And, you know, keep in mind that in Minneapolis, it's I don't know, 3% African American? Yeah. And I believe that George was dating someone who was non-Black. And I don't know, maybe this police officer had a problem with that. You know, since he's all about making America white again. But point of reference, for those who care to know, not that it really matters, George Floyd's children are with Black women. You know, so for those hating Black women out there who were saying that there should be no justice for George because, you know, like they care about who he was sticking it into. Sick individuals. clearly he liked women, period. And he obviously didn't have an issue with Black women. He just wasn't with one at the time of his death. Police brutality is I wish it was a felony here. I mean, well, here's the thing. If these officers, and I mean if officers, because I'm talking about the other three too, are convicted, they all should go on trial for murder. And, you know, I know that everyone's entitled to a trial by jury, but I don't know if I trust the jury. I don't know if I trust the jury. You know, we might end up with another, like the Rodney King trial, where those officers got off. Now, I'm hoping that because in this instance, someone is actually not here anymore. And this isn't one of the officers involved in this particular incident's first rodeo with this, seeing as Officer Tao is the one who killed someone with a similar strategy back in 2014. All four of these gentlemen need to be in custody. What the hell is the state attorney doing in Minnesota? Because they've taken jurisdiction over this. What's taking so long? Are you not getting cooperation from the Minneapolis Police Department? And if you aren't, you should take pause if that's the situation. You know, because they're going to look out for their own. That's what I'm talking about, Matt. I don't know if I trust a jury trial. But then if we do it with, you know, just the judge hearing the case and making the decision, do we trust that we'd have a judge on the bench that could be, you know, righteous and do the right thing? That's the part, you know. What's his name? Jesse Ventura. Didn't he used to be the governor of Minnesota? Wasn't he the previous governor of that state? See, I don't know, y'all. Is Minnesota a red state or a blue state? Because, you know, you have to watch that stuff. You know, how do they really feel about Black people being murdered in their state? How do they feel about that? No. And we all know that Minneapolis loved Prince, you know, because Prince put them on the map. But did they really love Prince when he wasn't Prince to the rest of the world? Did he have to deal with stuff growing up in that city? Like I said, 3%. And I've been to Minneapolis, y'all. I've been to Minneapolis and St. Paul. Wasn't a lot of I didn't see a lot of Black folk when I was there. I have to tell you that. Didn't see a whole bunch. Beautiful city, cold as hell. because I was there in the wintertime. You know, but not a whole lot of black folk. Yeah, but I don't know about on the state level. But see, that's what I'm talking about. Minnesota, the previous governor in Minnesota was Jesse Ventura, and I know he's Republican. You know, so you got to look at who's been governor of the state, and he's ex-military. You know, before, you know, he did all that WWE stuff. I believe he was like a Navy SEAL or something. So yeah, ain't no telling what kind of judges are on the bench in the state of Minnesota. No telling. But they better do something. Hey, uppity unicorn. Okay. All righty. I kind of think cold is not. Yeah, I know. Well, you know what I mean. 1SP. It's very cold in the wintertime in the Minneapolis, St. Paul area. You know, but what I found out when I was there is that those people don't really go out into that cold weather. You know, because they in both St. Paul and in Minneapolis, they have all of these like underground that they can go around under everything and, you know, never actually come out into the cold weather. So they don't even, you know, like when I was there, literally the hotel that me and my work colleagues were staying in, we went down and we were able to go under in this tunnel without having to come outside to go to the building that we needed to go to that was like a couple of blocks away. It was, yeah. So they're punks when it comes to dealing with the cold. Yeah, but he is the previous governor of the state of Minnesota. I know that much. So that in and of itself makes me worried about whether they'll do a good job of the trial. And I mean, you don't have any choice. In it, you know, it has to be somewhere in the state of Minnesota.
Did you know that Minnesota has the largest Muslim population in the country?
Oh, Minnesota has the largest Muslim population in the country. Did y'all know that? I bet you Uppity Unicorn knew that. But I know she just got in the shower. That's interesting. I don't think George was Muslim, but you know, that's interesting that there's a lot of Islamists in that state. That's very interesting. But yeah, Jesse Ventura is a conspiracy theorist. You know, and I'm not too sure he likes us very much either. So, you know, go figure. Go figure. Oh, she says, okay, so Uppity saying it's the #1 spot for Somali immigrants and refugees. So yeah, that would make sense. Okay, so the Muslims in Minnesota are largely from Somalia. Oh, which means they're black. That's probably the majority of the 3% in the city of Minneapolis. Probably the majority of the 3% of Black people in there are actually Somali Muslims. Wow. Winnipeg is large. It has a lot of Islam there too. Really, I didn't even know that about Minneapolis though. That puts a whole nother spin on this too. Wow. So that's going to be very, very interesting. You know, but the thing is that if they do a jury trial, who are going to be the jury of peers of these police officers? You know, with there only being 3% of the population in the city being, you know, Black. I don't know. Sounds like what? One Black juror, two Black jurors, maybe. You know, or would the defense be trying to not have, you know, use all the exemptions, trying to keep Black people off the jury? Yeah, Minnesota's close to the border too. I didn't think about that. But it's interesting that they go to areas that are colder. Because I know it's not cold in Somalia. I like that. But maybe it's because, you know, economically, you know, those areas of the country are better for them, you know, and they've got, especially if they've got, you know, support of other Somalis in that area. So that would make sense that they're going to go to areas where there are other people already there. So they won't have a hard time breaking in and establishing, you know, a presence. So that makes sense. I didn't even know that. Oh, that's you are, baby. You are so smart. You are so sexy. My dude brought up that part of the conversation. I have to give him props. He gets props for that.
Thank you very much.
Farming. Okay. All right. That makes sense. 1SP. And low rent. Yeah. Lower rent. Yeah. Man. Yeah. Like California is expensive. But I mean, there are some Somalis here because I've got some friends who are Somali. But yeah. This is probably not a place that a bunch of them are going to come to because it's sky high, you know. So that makes sense. And I didn't even think about agriculture. Yeah, Minnesota, good for agriculture, even though it's cold in the wintertime. The rest of the year, it's good for farming. They've got great land. Same thing across the border. And same thing in Washington too. So I didn't even think about that. I was just thinking about it. Cold there. I'm like, y'all know me. And I'm not even from California, y'all. I grew up in the snow, in a cold part of the country. I grew up in DC, which has been turning up. They've been turning up. I'm so mad about what happened there yesterday. And I know that 45 had something to do with the tear gas and whatnot being thrown into a peaceful protest yesterday. And he's getting a lot of flack for that. As well he should. Trying to mess my hometown up. I'm like, what you trying to do? Blow it up? You trying to cause havoc in there? You know? I mean, hey, Terry, you already know that you're on shaky ground, dude, right now. Shaky ground. And do you know that some states are having primaries this week? Man, I'm going to just say this. I am so glad that California moved their primaries up to be one of the first primaries so that it was before all of the COVID-19, before all of this other stuff has been going on with the curfews and everything. I'm telling you. That was like one of the best moves the California voters could have done. In hindsight, I know that it was done to make California count as far as who, was the candidate. But that was a smart move because normally we would just be having our primaries right now in June. In the middle of what's going on. Shouts out to Maryland, who had their primaries today. Although I'm from DC, my parents moved to Maryland when I was in high school. So I lived in Maryland for 4 years before I came to California. Well, actually, before I left for college, because I was there, through high school. So shouts out to them. And I have a couple of friends who serve in government in the great state of Maryland. One of them is a councilwoman and another one is a judge. They went to high school with me. So. Hey, Terry, I at the beginning of the show, I talked about being Black and autistic and dealing with law enforcement. I am going to also do a video probably on the points that I did in this live stream so that they're out there again. I'm going to put the change.org back in the chat again for you guys. This is the change.org, you guys, for Spectrum 2020. It's for Spectrum Protection 2020. And it's dealing with, our Black young people, our Black people, period, who are on the spectrum of autism. And when they deal with law enforcement, it's even more detrimental because, not everybody on the autism spectrum is, high functioning or high verbal. And even if they are, doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to understand how to deal with law enforcement. So I gave some tips on some things that need to be done with our kids and young adults. And I think I will also put it into video. I have another video that I'm also going to do again because this micro staffer chick, y'all, I'm like so upset about this. And for those of you who don't know, Micah Staffer is a, big YouTuber. She's got what, over 700,000 subscribers, but I'm sure she's losing them as we speak. And she gained most of those subscribers by adopting a boy on the autism spectrum. Well, she just recently, doing COVID-19, rehomed this child. Sounds like she was rehoming an animal. And if you look at her videos while he was with them, not a good autism mom. Neither she nor her husband acted like they even loved this child. Let me just say. But anyway, she has lost one of her biggest sponsors, Fabletics. Y'all, I need to get myself to a big enough plateau so I can get some Fabletics advertisement. They can stand behind me as an autism mom. I will definitely wear their products and even do some Pilates videos in their products if they come on and get behind this one. Because that woman and her husband are truly a disgrace. It was clearly about building her freaking channel, and she could care less. Because as soon as they rehomed their son, they went off on a vacation. I'm just over narcissists like that. These are narcissists. They use that child. He's going to be traumatized. I pray, they claimed that he needed more, he needed someone who could deal with his needs more medically. Newsflash, y'all. Micah Staffer is a registered nurse. Get the heck out of here. Excuses, excuses, excuses. And I was very politically correct in my first video. I was so angry, but I tried to be, I tried to not be judgmental. I tried to keep it PC. Yeah, but I'm going to do a part 2. I'm not going to be nice this time. And I believe that everything that comes to them is what they deserve as far as their YouTube channel. And she's gone out and had the audacity to start another YouTube channel because she knows that she needs to stop it. She needs to take all those videos with that child off of her channel, stop gaining views, stop gaining money off of those videos, or demonetize them. One or the other. She sickens me. Her and her narcissistic husband. Both of them are narcissists. I tell you this. If you saw some of the videos where she was making fun, had no patience with her child's meltdowns, told him to get over himself, and we're talking about a 3- and 4-year-old. Yeah. And then her husband didn't like being looked at by their son. Now they have biological children, but I think that they were adopting children with disabilities or with special needs so they could have attention on them. So it would make them look like these great people. Because they were taking what? Pity on this child. And then they did things that appear to have tortured him. So maybe that's why he's someplace else. She had the child for years. I believe they got him when he was about age 1. He's now 4. So 3 years, 2-3 years. Yeah. Long enough for him to have grown to feel that he was in some type of stability. Long enough for him to, see them as his family. And, they're punks, and I don't believe that they really and truly did what they needed to do. I think maybe they bit off more than they could chew. Because autism is very unpredictable. No two autistic people are the same. I promise you they aren't. The things that I have gone through with my son, throughout his life are not the same as someone else, And I mean, I even had things that happened all the way up into him being an adult. It's part of being the parent of someone on the spectrum. And if you weren't ready for that, then you shouldn't have even gone that way. Hey, Manish. Manish. I think it's Manish. But yeah, I'm gonna do another video on Micah. I tried to be nice the first time, but as I've delved more into, some of the stuff that because I wasn't like on their channel all the time, but I was on there, from time to time, because I obviously am going to look at what other YouTubers that are in the autism community are doing on their channels, but what they were doing, foul. And I guess they felt they had no more use for the child. Now that they have I think they have like a $700,000 home in Ohio that they bought off the YouTube money that they got from their son, through their advertisers and all the stuff. Yeah. It's sickening to me. Pisses me off. That's what I feel, Uppity Unicorn. That's exactly how I feel. I feel that they exploited this child for YouTube and Instagram fame. Because I know that they're monetized on both platforms. Yeah, because once you hit 10,000 subscribers or followers on Instagram, you can get monetized. Yeah, somebody told me that. I didn't even know that. And it may be between 5 and 10. Apparently. Interesting. So, yeah. I mean, being the parent of of someone on the spectrum. I mean, you know, it's not no fairy tale. It's not, you know, but there are many other people who have adopted children on the spectrum, and some of them are here on YouTube. And they're dealing with things as well. But they're not exploiting their kids. And that's my thing. You know, I mean, my son's an adult. So there's no exploitation. Whenever he comes on to my channel, he comes on camera because he wants to be on camera. It's his choice. And, you know, I see that a lot of the time when they had the camera on their son, they should have been paying attention to their son instead of sticking a camera in his face while he was having a meltdown and having a hard time. Point blank, period. So they should have never had this kid. They didn't know what they did it for the wrong reasons. And I don't care what they say. I don't believe them if they say otherwise. Let's see how well you're doing as your channel tumbles down, because trust me, she's trending. She's trending on YouTube. She's trending on Instagram. She's trending on Twitter, and not in a nice way. Anyway, I know I've been on here for over an hour, and you know, primarily my subject tonight has been about autism. David wants to come on camera with me, so come on, have a seat. We're gonna go on camera. We're gonna go on camera. Let me turn it on. I'm gonna come on camera, and he's with me, so I'll go on. Hey, hey everyone. Yeah, David's here. Yeah, no exploiting over here. You getting ready to go to bed? All right. Yeah, see, he just wanted y'all to see him. And anyway, guys, I am so glad y'all came through. Thank you for kind of sitting through. Hey, underrated darkness. Thank y'all for sitting through. You know, me talking about, you know, just the things that need to be done when you're dealing with someone who is Black and autistic, and law enforcement. I will also again post the change.org on my community tab. It's change.org. What is it? /spectrum. What is it? Spectrum, Lord. I'm gonna put it in the chat again because I keep forgetting. Yeah, he just left me write this. It is Spectrum Protection. Yeah, so it is Spectrum Protection 2020. And it's dealing with being Black and autistic, and dealing with law enforcement. So I would encourage everyone to please help to sign that. We're trying to get signature on that because we don't want our kids to be forgotten, either our young adults who are on the spectrum, that we want them to be dealt with fairly as well. Especially because some of them out here in these protests. Yeah, that part. But I will see you guys tomorrow. Until then, off you guys. Peace and blessings from the West Side. All right, you guys. Another night of curfew. Another day of protests, but most of them were peaceful today. Let's see if tomorrow can be peaceful protests tomorrow too, because that's where we want them to go. These outliers who are looting need to be gone. All right, guys. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.